So, have you ever wondered what really happens when you hire a financial advisor? Behind the curtain? It can kind of feel like this big mystery, right? Like you're handing over your financial future and you don't actually know the rules of the game. Well, guess what? There is a game plan, an official playbook. And today, we're going to walk you through it step by step. Let's dive in.
You might be thinking about this for a bunch of reasons, right? Maybe you landed a new job, the family's growing, or you're just looking at retirement and thinking, okay, it's time to get serious. Getting an expert to help sounds great, but yeah, it also opens up a whole can of worms and a lot of questions.
Exactly. That's the big question. What are they actually doing back there? Is it some secret formula? Do they have a crystal ball? Spoiler alert, no. The reality is actually way more structured and, believe it or not, heavily regulated. And here's the thing. Understanding that process, that's the key to making the whole thing work for you.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about the ground rules. Then, the single most important idea, the fiduciary promise. After that, we'll get into the official 6-step playbook. Then we'll cover something called Know Your Client, or KYC, and finally, we'll figure out how they decode your personal risk profile. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first things first, the ground rules. Now, the whole system is built on this really simple but super important idea. Not every client is the same. And because of that, not everyone needs the same amount of protection. The rules are actually designed to be flexible, to change based on how much financial experience you have. And this is where it gets pretty interesting. It's kind of this inverse relationship. See, on one end of the spectrum, you have what they call retail investors. And, that's probably most of us. We get the most protection, the most guardrails. But on the other end, you've got the big players, the institutional clients. They have tons of experience, so the system assumes they need a lot less hand-holding. It's all tailored to who you are as an investor.
Now, this leads us perfectly into what is, without a doubt, the single most important rule in this entire world: the fiduciary promise. Seriously, if you remember one thing, make it this. This is the ethical foundation for everything.
So what on earth does fiduciary even mean? It sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means a relationship built on a special kind of trust. And legally, it means your advisor must, and I mean must, act only in your best interest. Not theirs, yours.
And look, this isn't just some nice-sounding idea they hope people follow. No way. It is baked right into the law. This quote here comes directly from a major U.S. regulation, and it couldn't be clearer. The advisor cannot put their own financial interests ahead of the customer's. Period. End of story.
So, what does that look like in the real world? Well, it boils down to a few core duties. They have to act in good faith. They have to actively avoid any conflicts of interest. They can't use their position of trust to make a secret profit. And, of course, everything you tell them is confidential. These are pretty much the 4 pillars holding up that entire promise.
Okay, so now that we've got the ethical rules of the road down, let's get into the process. How does this actually work day to day? Well, it's not just advisors winging it. There is an official, internationally recognized process. We're calling it the 6-step playbook.
And here it is, the whole journey laid out. The key thing to see here is that it's a circle, it's a loop. This isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. It doesn't just stop once the plan is made. It's a continuous cycle of doing, checking, and adjusting. Because, well, life happens, right? Things change.
So let's just quickly run through the stages. Step 1, you establish the relationship, you get to know each other. 2, they gather all your data. And we'll talk more about that in a second. 3, they analyze everything. 4, they come back to you with a concrete action plan. 5, with your okay, they put that plan into motion. And then number 6, and this is so important, they review it over and over. It's a system, it's methodical, it's repeatable, and it's regulated.
Okay, let's talk about step 2, the data gathering. This brings us to something that, let's be honest, can feel like a real chore: the endless questions. It's officially called the Know Your Client Rule, or KYC for short. And while it might feel like they're being nosy, trust me, there's a really good reason for this deep dive.
This whole fact-find part of the process, it's about so much more than just the numbers on your bank statement. A really good advisor is trying to build a complete picture of you, a 360-degree view. What are your goals? What does your family need? What are your values? What are you actually afraid of when it comes to money?
I mean, think about it. Why do they need your birthday? Well, it tells them your life stage, and more importantly, your time horizon, how long you have to invest, where you live. That's a huge deal for taxes. Your job? That gives them clues about your own business savvy and if there are any conflicts of interest. See?
Every single question they ask has a specific job to do.
All right, so once they have all the facts, the process gets, well, it gets a lot more personal. Now it's time to figure out your risk profile. And this might be the most subtle, most nuanced part of the whole playbook, because it's all about your personal relationship with financial risk.
See, a pro doesn't just ask, are you risky? They break it down into 3 separate pieces. First, there's risk tolerance. That's your gut feeling, your willingness to ride the ups and downs of the market. Then there's risk perception, what you personally think is risky, which can be different for everyone. And finally, and this is a big one, there's risk capacity. That's the cold, hard math. Can you actually afford to lose money if things go south? It's so important to get that right. You could have a huge tolerance for risk, but if you don't have the capacity, it's a disaster waiting to happen. So building this complete profile is really a balancing act. On one side, you have the objective stuff, the hard facts, your age, how much money you have, how long you're investing for. You can put a number on all that. But on the other side, you have the subjective stuff, the feelings, your personality, your past experiences with investing, your gut instincts. A great advisor knows how to blend both of those sides together to get the real, true picture of you.
So there you have it. That's the playbook, the framework, that all-important promise, and the step-by-step process that happens behind the scenes. It's a system that's designed to be orderly, to protect you, and, at the end of the day, to be deeply personal. So now that you know the plays, the only question is, what's your first move?